Well, greetings and salutations, folks. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump on into it, a quick couple of links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below, the merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning, middle of the night bonus, shall we? So today's first part of the upload is going to be a friend sharing his friend's encounter, and then afterward his own with us. Before I jump into this encounter, a few things. First, I am not claiming ownership of this encounter. This happened to my friend and his two cousins. My friend just decided to share this with me. So let's jump into it. A few weeks ago, my uncle and my two cousins came out to visit my mom and dad for a barbecue. We have one every year on the 1st of May because it happens to be my mom and dad's anniversary. So it's the 1st of May, and my uncle and two cousins get to our house. We had just moved in back in February, so we were all excited to have our first get-together out there. We're situated on a mountaintop with a decently sized yard that is completely surrounded by woods. My dad had plans to clear out a few sections of woods so that he could put some deer feeders out there so he could have a chance of getting some hunting out there. While he hadn't started preparing to begin cutting trees down, he decided to test the water, as he phrased it, and put 8 to 9 trail cams out to see if there were any deer worth hunting. I'd helped him out with this, setting up the cams, finding good spots, and figuring out what position they should be facing. Then that was the end of that. So while my dad and uncle are hovering over the grill, me and my two cousins had decided to relieve our boredom by playing around in the backyard. We had a trampoline set up. The original owners of the house had decided to include their pool in the deal, along with a volleyball court they had made on the far side of the pool, bordering the woods. So me and my two cousins are enjoying ourselves on the trampoline without a care in the world. After a short while, my dad and uncle came to us and announced that dinner was ready. So we all went inside, grabbed a plate, and then came back outside to the back deck and sat and ate. Me and my dad were the first ones finished eating. My dad looked at me and suggested that we should go and check on the trail cams. We had done this many times before, sometimes even checking 3 or 4 times a week, just to see what's out in the woods. However, this time would be a little different. Me and my dad are going around the property checking all of the trail cams, to the point where we only hadn't checked one of them, but for some reason we couldn't manage to find it. After searching around for almost 10 minutes, we eventually found the exact tree it should have been on. I remember placing it on that specific tree, and it was one of those trees that once you saw it again, after the first time, it's damn near impossible to not recognize it. So my dad came up to me and started looking around, questioning that I had put the trail camera in this specific tree. I told him several times that I was 100% positive that this is the tree I placed the camera on. So we start circling the tree, looking for any signs of the missing trail cam. While we were shuffling around trying to find it, I kicked something hard. I tripped over myself and looked down at my feet to see what had tripped me up, and there it was. Well, what was left of the trail cam. My dad came over to me and he saw it was just as clearly as I did. The trail cam was completely and utterly destroyed. Upon further examination of the cam, we learned that a heavy-duty ratchet strap we used to secure it around the tree had been torn apart, literally. It looked as though something had grabbed the trail cam and just ripped it completely off the tree, and then just went to town destroying it. My dad, thinking that whatever did this must have stepped into range, which the trail cam could have taken a picture of it. He tried to open the trail cam, but to no success. This trail cam, which is almost damn near indestructible, was damaged so badly to the point where my dad couldn't open it. My dad, not wanting to admit defeat, grabbed his knife and exclaimed that he was getting the damn thing open to at least get the memory card. That was all he seemed to care about at that very moment. So after a few minutes of forcing his knife into the trail cam, he finally managed to open it. It took him a second to fully realize where the spot for the memory chip was supposed to be was a tangled mess. When he finally found the spot for the memory card, he pulled it out, and to his utter disbelief, the card had been broken into several pieces well inside the camera. My dad was beyond ticked off at this point because not only did he lose a $150 trail cam, but he also lost his only chance of figuring out what had done it. Now, even more mad than before, he said, "Let's get back to the house." He picked up the cam and we headed back to the house. He told the others what had happened to the trail cam and then showed them. Fast forward to that night. My dad, my uncle, myself, and my two cousins all went into the woods, just practically clinging to the hope that one of the other trail cams had spotted this thing that had destroyed the other camera, since my dad had checked them all. My uncle went with my dad, so me and my two cousins were together. We began checking every single trail cam that we had left. So my cousins and I were heading toward the location of the third cam just to retrieve the memory card, because my dad had told us just get the memory card. And when we got back home, we'd search them together. We got about 15 yards away from our third camera, and in an instant a chill ran to the top of my head and all the way down to both my feet. I told my two cousins about this, and they said, "Yeah, we know, we feel it too." We all started panning, looking to see if we could see anything. Then I picked up on something. In the direction where we were heading to the camera, I saw a figure. Me thinking it was either my dad or my uncle, I called out saying, "Hello." Then it looked right at me and my cousins. I immediately knew that it was neither my dad or my uncle because of the red glowing eyes. At first glance, I thought maybe it was an animal like a deer, thinking that it was just reflecting the lights of our flashlights back onto us. But that theory went straight through the window when we turned our flashlights away from it, and then it stood up. I watched in utter shock and horror as this thing stood very slowly, from about the level of a deer to about 9 feet off the ground. As myself and my cousins were standing there in shock, it let out this deep guttural growl and started advancing towards us. I was the first to snap out of the sort of trance I was in and grab both my cousins to try to get them to move so we could run. One of my cousins managed to get out of their trance as well, and we both tried to get the other out. My other cousin finally showed a sign that he was out of his trance, and just before I could utter the words to run fast as we can, this thing leapt into the air and landed on top of the cousin that took the longest to snap out of it. Myself and my other cousin fell to the ground as this creature landed, then let out a loud growl before getting off my cousin and grabbing his throat. It lifted him off the ground and roared directly into his face before looking at my other cousin, the one who was just getting back to his feet. The creature threw my first cousin away from it and then hit the other cousin across the face, causing him to go right back down to the ground. Then it looked directly at me. It took one gigantic step forward, lifted me off the ground, then did the same roar as it did to my cousin, only this time much louder. I yelled for my cousins to run if they could. My one cousin was helping his brother get up off the ground and onto his feet after being thrown. They looked at each other, then to the creature, and decided there was only one thing to do. In desperation, they each picked up a fallen tree branch from the ground and charged at the creature. One of my cousins connected a swing to its head, while the other went directly for the arm the creature had me in. The force of the blow to the creature's head caused it to falter, while the multiple hits to its arm caused it to drop me. My cousins tried to get a few more swings in, but the creature managed to right itself and caught both incoming blows going directly for its head. It grabbed both my cousins, one in each hand, then threw them away, causing my cousin and my other cousin to drop the branches they were using as weapons. All three of us got together and tried to run, but the creature swung one of its arms and connected, causing us to fall. The creature reared back its head and let out the most terrifying roar I've ever heard and started to move toward us. Just then a gunshot rang out, then another, and then another. All three shots connected to the creature. I looked up just in time to see this creature fall to the ground, appearing lifeless. I look over my shoulder and see my dad and my uncle both standing there white as sheets, both holding a gun in their hands. They both hurried over to me and my cousin and told us to run back to the house, fearing the creature was not dead. Both of my cousins booked it back to the house, whereas I did not. I wanted revenge. I wanted it dead, for good. I jerked the gun out of my uncle's hand and proceeded to empty the rest of the clip into this thing's chest. Once I was sure it was dead, I hit it across the face with the shoulder stock of the gun and spat in its face and screamed, "How did you like that?" I handed my uncle back the gun, which he immediately loaded another magazine into. I walked past my dad and started heading back toward the house, with my uncle and dad following me very closely. We got to the edge of the woods and started making our way across the small field to get to the house. Then out of nowhere, we heard several more growls and roars, sounding almost exactly like the creature we had just killed. Hearing this, then immediately my dad screamed at us to run, so we did. All three of us started to book it toward the house as fast as we could. We hopped a 4-foot chain-link fence that made up the dimensions of our front yard and then ran up the stairs to the front porch. My dad and my uncle both turned and started firing their guns, not at anything, almost like they were just trying to scare the creature off. That was until one of them showed itself. Then both my uncle and dad shot it at the same time. It fell to the ground. And then everything went silent. No more growls or roars to be heard. Nothing at all. Everything just went completely silent. All three of us made it back into the house. And then that entire evening, everyone in the house that knew how to operate a gun safely had one in their hands or on their person. It stayed that way till the next morning. The next morning came around. Against everything that was screaming in the back of our minds, me, my cousin, my uncle, my dad went back to the woods. We were trying to see if we could find any bodies of the two creatures we had shot. To our disappointment, we found nothing except, of course, the blood of the creature I myself had dumped the mag into. That was all we found, just that one pool of blood. This is the friend of the person this happened to, his statement on the encounter. I tell you, it was scary to hear. Nonetheless, on top of having to take notes on this story as my friend was telling it, I wasn't the only one who was scared. It also disturbed my friend a little bit as he tried to recall the events from that night that almost completely changed his life. My friend said it changed him a whole lot when it came to how he felt about going outside, let alone at nighttime. For those who are curious, my friend still lives in that house, although he is still scared that anything like that could happen again. He has had no more experiences even close to that night since. In fact, he hasn't seen or heard these creatures since that night. Anyway, that's it for his encounter. I hope you guys enjoyed what you heard. despite how scary it is. Now, this is his encounter. About a month ago, I had moved from my somewhat bustling city of Rome, Georgia, to a somewhat quiet area of Grant, Alabama, to be with my wife. Grant is located a little ways from Guntersville in a mountainous area. I really don't know how to describe it, but we are in the mountains. Anyway, a few days ago, I headed over to my sister-in-law's house. Her husband, Dave, allowed me to come over and go fishing at their pond on his property, so I went, loaded up my fishing pole. When I got there, only my sister-in-law was there, but told me that she and her husband were about to leave for a bit, and I could stay. So I started to make my way down to the pond that's practically surrounded by woods. The path to get to the pond is not surrounded by woods. You could see the pond clearly from Dave's back porch, so I really wasn't afraid to walk down there alone. I get to the pond and start doing my thing, trying to catch some fish. My wife has a dog named Mistletoe that my sister-in-law opened up to take care of him. So I'm sitting there on the bank of the pond fishing, petting Mistletoe, when I start to get this uneasy feeling. The sun had just disappeared below the treetops, so it was starting to get a little dark. While sitting on the bank, that uneasy feeling turned into a feeling of being watched. I couldn't shake that feeling. I turned and looked toward the tree line, but did not see anything. I tried to calm myself down a little, just trying to enjoy myself. That's when Mistletoe started a low growl. And it was that low growl that just tipped the balance for me, feeling somewhat okay to, yup, I'm out of here. I looked across the pond to see two solid yellow eyes. They were glowing, like actually glowing, not just shining the sun's reflection back to me. Mistletoe goes off and starts raising Cain, just going absolutely nuts. Then this figure stood up and started walking toward me on its hind legs. It looked like a coyote almost, but much bigger and able to walk on its two legs like a human. It started to go around the right side of the pond, leaving the path to the house open to the left. I saw my opportunity to escape, and I took it. I sprinted up the hill back to the house. When I got to the house, I went inside and locked the doors and the windows and stayed there for a bit. I sometimes went to the window to look outside, but every time I did, I could see it, and it appeared to be looking at me. Realizing I had a gun in my car, I decided to make a mad dash for my car. If it came at me and I was not able to escape, I was going to fight, so I mustered up some courage and ran to my car. I'd made it to my car and immediately reached under the driver's seat and pulled out my gun. I then noticed that the thing was looking around the corner of the house. I didn't decide to wait any longer. I jumped in my car, threw it into reverse, and booked it out of there as fast as I could. Like I said, it had glowing yellow eyes and looked almost exactly like a coyote, except it was standing on its hind legs. It appeared to be 8 or 9 feet tall. Extremely matted fur, almost like it had been rolling in the mud. Today's second part of the upload. This took place in Louisiana. Spent some time with some Cajun folk around Lake Charles, and they used the words Rugaroo and Loopgaroo interchangeably if someone were to see something big and hairy in the swamp. I was asking about Bigfoot specifically, and they replied with Loopgaroo, with jokes and nothing too serious about it. Then asked about the Rugaroo, and their demeanor changed. No more smiles or jokes. This was a thing of nightmares for them. I believe it was after Hurricane Audrey in 1957, the patriarch of the family was telling me, and many folk were down in the bayous were lost, that the survivors went out to try to recover bodies. He said that he came up to a big cypress, and about 25 feet, he saw one of these things sitting on a branch, eating the body of a child. Looked to him like a little girl, maybe 10 years old. He said he reached for his rifle and shot the thing 3 times with a .35 Winchester. He said you could see the impact of each thud causing water to spray off this thing's body. After the 3rd shot, it looked the guy full in his face, growled, and then went right back to eating, now licking its lips, making the sight more gruesome. He said he hauled out of there and went back the next day. Said the thing had taken one of the child's thigh bones and jammed it hard into the base of the tree and hung the torso, stripped clean of flesh, in the child's head, untouched so one could clearly see her face. Hung it for him to find. Made it very clear to me that these things are cold-hearted, calculating monsters, not animals. 30 years had passed since this now old man had seen this, and when he was telling it, he became pale with tears in his eyes. Today's third part of the upload. These two encounters happened almost a decade apart. The first encounter took place at my cousin's trailer, a couple of houses down from mine. We live in a rural town at the foot of the Appalachian region, so there's plenty of forest coverage around us. We were playing hide and seek, and all is well until I tagged my cousin and made him the seeker. He hated seeking, so instead of playing the game, he decided to quit and sit on his front porch. Time was around midnight, maybe a bit earlier, so naturally it's pitch black outside and perfect for scaring someone. My cousin's friend, my brother, and I began to devise a plan to get revenge on my cousin for being a sore loser. And we came up with this. We'll lure him into the edge of the forest, and my brother will jump out at him. A very simple plan for a couple of dumb 13-year-olds. So we got to it. We managed to convince him that there was something making noises in the woods, and so he came with us to investigate. As we walked the edge of the forest, we heard something inside walking with us. I looked at my cousin's friend, and we both started grinning at each other, knowing it was my brother beyond those trees. Then out of nowhere, my brother bursts from the side of my cousin's trailer, screaming and roaring, sending us all into a fearful panic. He got us good, so good, in fact, that we totally forgot about the noise coming from the forest, that we could no longer be attributed to my brother. As we were all laughing about the scare, we heard a horrifying noise come from the depths of the forest. It was a loud scream. It sounded like a man screaming for help. It slowly changed pitch, and to this day I swear it said help. After about 5 seconds of human-sounding screams, it turned to the most guttural roar I have ever heard. It was chilling. We ran inside. My cousin opened the blinds to his window, and it was right then when we noticed the obvious and haunting sight of the moon. Jump forward about 9 years, and I'm coming home late from work. As I'm driving, I see two bright orange eyes peering at me from the side of the dark road. I thought it may have been a fox or a dog, but as I got closer, I realized this was no average fox or dog. It was a massive, black, wolf-like dog. This animal was so tall while on all fours that it seemed to be almost as tall as my car. Its back legs were almost kangaroo-like, very long and muscular, while the front of the legs were short and thin. It dashed across the road and got in front of my car, jumping the fence to the left side of the road, almost with no struggle. When I got home, I nonchalantly told my family that I had finally seen a werewolf that made the noises so many years ago. I don't necessarily believe that it was the actual werewolf or Dogman, but I can't honestly say it wasn't. Today's final encounter. In New Jersey, okay, let's start this off. I don't truthfully believe in the paranormal or cryptids, mostly because of my own ignorance. I presume of discounting anything I've seen. Disclaimer, this happened about 10 years ago when I was in high school. It takes place in South Jersey, the Pinelands. I lived with my parents in a neighborhood at the time which was pretty developed and had trails that led to a huge forest with a giant pit filled with water. The neighborhood had like a rainwater runoff basin right behind the street corner all us kids hung out around. And from that, basin trails lead to the woods toward the pit. One night after my friend and I had been doing some night fishing, probably wrapping up at around 9, we got back to the street corner that wraps around the basin. He walked home and I stayed for a minute, sitting down to stargaze. This was like early spring, so it was fairly dark by this time, but still seeable because of the moon and streetlights in the neighborhood. For some reason, I got up ready to go home, but had a weird feeling, so I turned around toward the dark forest behind the basin, and I saw what looked like a glowing white husky. It looked normal for a big dog to me, but was odd at how well I could see it, and it was staring right at me. I figured it could not have been a coyote because even from afar it was at least well over 100 pounds. I thought maybe it's someone's lost husky, so I ran down the basin hill and started slowly walking toward it, saying, "Hey, buddy," and stuff like that. The thing didn't flinch, and it now looked more like a big white wolf. I started thinking this thing could be closer to my size, I'm 6'3", 280, who played sports, than it was to a regular-sized husky. I was like 200 feet away from it. I wasn't scared, but I no longer wanted to greet this thing. I walked back slowly facing it, and then eventually I bolted to the street corner streetlight. I turned back and no white dog. I don't know what I saw or what this thing was, but it was at least a very huge dog. I didn't think it meant me any harm, but I wasn't going to pet it when I felt sized up. Not sure if this fits any Dogman stories or not. I was on another paranormal website and I stumbled across a Dogman story and thought, wow, maybe that's what I saw. But the glowing mystic white was very strange. This is also the exact area we just walked back from the pitch black forest. My friend still brings it up and calls it my white wolf sighting, but no other person than him believes me. He's also sworn that he's seen lights hovering around those woods and basin before. Maybe we both are just seeing stuff, I don't know. All right, folks, there you have it. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. The events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.